wanted to do some homework on, or that we were not completely unanimous on. And so those changes have not been made here. This only reflects the things that we walked out last week feeling unanimous about. With that, I will stop, and there are 3 amendments at the desk that deal with those things that were a little bit more questionable last week. But before we get into those, I'll open it up for questions just about kind of the language that is before you now, before we get into amendments, and then of course we can get into amendments as we see fit. And like I said, some are written. David, we have a process set up. If we desire more amendments, if we desire more changes, we can get those typed up, we can get those printed and distributed in this meeting. So our goal is, if at all possible, to pass language today, and so we can go through as many amendments as necessary to make that happen and to make everyone comfortable here. So with that, I will open it up to general questions, and we'll just kind of flow from there. Senator Paxton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back to last week's discussion when Fenton Rood from the Department of Environmental Quality discussed the issue with his thought process that maybe there were laboratory testing capacity already that would be able to handle this, so we did maybe not need the May 15th implementation date. That could be moved up. I see the May 15th date is still in here. Can you tell us what the findings were of that, or maybe elaborate just a little bit on what went on this last week?
I will do my best, and David, tell me when I overstep here. We had a handful of conversations this week on that subject. Mr. Rood did get back with us. And I don't have it in front of me, so again, David may tell me I'm wrong here. His answer was that there are definitely laboratories that are interested. There are laboratories that want to work in this area. There are not laboratories with all of the machines necessary for marijuana testing in place. And so his estimate was, I believe, 4 months is what it would take. That it was not necessarily just labs that are starting from the ground up. And we got some other input from people at DEQ that this, and I'm going to have to look it up, the laboratory standard that we are requiring, or that we're recommending that the Board of Health require, the 17025 standard, there are multiple labs in the state of Oklahoma that already have that accreditation. And so those labs would be able to expand their, I guess, line of service is what I'll call it, in pretty short order. Now, whether or not any of those labs, and I believe that there are 4 of them right now in the state of Oklahoma, whether or not any of those 4 currently accredited labs want to get into the marijuana space, we do not know. If they do, then it could be a very short turnaround that we have fully accredited labs in the state of Oklahoma. But all of that to say, at this point, it is still very much an unknown. The timeline could be much shorter than the 6 months that we laid out in here. It could be much, much faster than the 6 months that we have laid out in here. Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I read this and I saw those dates when this was sent out, just kind of a little thought process here, and with that answer, we're not really sure when we would have the capacity to do that. When I read through it, I guess my problem with this, and I'm ready to move forward with what we have here, it's not testing, not labeling is concerning to me, and especially with THC levels and everything else that we've talked about in here. I think the direction that we might want to consider today is maybe just a possible recommendation to add to this would be that, you know, as soon as the health department deems that we do have the capacity to test this product, they can move that date forward. And that would be part of their rules, or part of our recommendation would be here's the date, we certainly ought to have this stuff up and running. But if, for example, on February the 1st, there's labs that came on, the capacity is there to test this product, that date could be moved forward by the health department. I'm sure, I know it's in their capacity and rules anyway, but maybe that needs to come as a recommendation here too, is once you do get that capacity, we have no problem with you moving that date forward for the patient safety factor.
All right, I'll turn to my co-chair. This 6-month delay was his baby, so I'll let you respond.
Yeah, Senator, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I absolutely would have no issue with, and maybe since we're recording this and we'll have it on there, they'll kind of have House and Senate agreeing that, and if nobody disagrees, we'll take your silence as acquiescence. But that, I mean, I would publicly say if we get up and running before that time, where we have the ability to do the testing, I have absolutely no problem with that. And I think the health department would be in a position, if they were to change their rules because there were enough labs that were there to require testing, they'd have my support in that. And I think it would be I think your point's well taken.
Thank
And I think maybe just a kind of technical answer, because it'd be very hard to do what we're talking about in this rulemaking process. I assume when whatever